Slendy, Ego, Slendy, ayy. Hit it out the park. Hit him with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. I'm in Slendy, Ego, Slendy, Ego, Slendy, Ego, Slendy, ayy. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. But you know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 418 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here. It is June 25th, 2023, and the San Diego Padres, what do you know? They just lost 2 out of 3 to the worst team in the National League. And right now, the Padres are one of the worst teams in the National League. And obviously, going into the season, we were not expecting to say that here in the middle of June, but that's where we are right now. They're not the worst team, but the way that they're playing, they're not considered a World Series contender. We cannot sit here and say this team is a World Series contender with the way that they're performing. Just can't do it. So they win on Friday 13-3, then they lose on Saturday 2-0, and then they lose again today 8-3. They had some chances with runners in scoring position today, couldn't come through. Nationals blow it open there late off of a couple relievers, and that's that. You see a lot of Padres fans filing out of Petco, and the ones that stayed till the end like I did, a lot of depressed Padres fans. No energy in the ballpark, and why should there be? Especially, late in the game, because Padres doesn't feel like they're playing with it. When Tatis had that big hit today, or I say big because I guess it was big at the time, a hit, I think, tied the game at that point, 1-1, on a little single to right. He was pumped up. That was like the last, spark that I saw from anyone in this Padres team today. So, yeah, I know that they care. Like, Xander Bogaerts cares. Manny cares. Fernando cares. I think Juan cares. But that's great. We all care too. But, they're the ones on the field that have the ability to change things around. And start playing better, produce some more wins, and it's just not happening right now. And where is this Padres team at? Like, I don't know if it's too early to talk about the trade deadline, but what should this Padres team do at the deadline? That's a thought that's in my head. Are they going to be sellers? Are they going to be buyers? I cannot sit here. It's just hard for me to sit here and say that this team's going to be buyers, or excuse me, sellers. Sorry. Yeah. Switch that. I cannot see that this team is going to be a seller at the trade deadline. I get that the season is not going the way that Peter Seidler envisioned or AJ Preller envisioned, but like they envisioned it going so well, they went all in on it. So I think it would be hard for them to sit there and start, being out on the season, if that makes sense, when they were all in with moves that they made, including long-term extensions. They were all in going into the year. Are there pieces that they could sell? Yeah, sure. Snell, Hader, Waka, like there's multiple pieces that they could sell. But if you sell those pieces, what are you telling the fan base? Are you saying that, yeah, we're still trying to win? Probably not. And again, this might be a better conversation to have longer down the road. When we get closer to the trade deadline, which I believe is on August 1st. But that obviously just popped into my head because the Padres right now, after today's 8-3 loss, and we'll get to all the games that happened in this series, the 3 games, Padres sit 37-41, fourth in the National League West. Forget the division. They're 9.5 back from that. And I've said many times on this show, I'm not someone that goes and looks at the wild card standings until like after the trade deadline, probably, at least until then. But I kind of went against that today on the trolley ride home. I looked at the wild card standings and where the Padres sit because the division, again, like throw that out, right? Like that's not going to happen. I just don't see that happening. But the wild card, you think, well, you're not there for the division, but the wild card, it's you should be much closer to a wild card spot than you are in the division. That's not the case with the Padres. 9.5, I think is what it is with the division. The wild card, the Padres are 7 games back in that. And there are teams like the New York Mets that could pass the Padres. They have the talent. They're also underwhelming, just like the Padres are this year. So, Padres 7 games back. Okay, the Cubs, yeah, Padres should be able to pass them. But then there's teams like the Phillies, who we saw last year go on a run, and they definitely have talent. The Milwaukee Brewers, I think most baseball people would believe that the Padres can get past them, but look where they're at right now. They're the ones that are 3 games over 500, not 4 games under like the Padres are. And then let's say those teams go up and they get wild card spots. Well, are the Padres going to get past the Dodgers for a wild card? Are they going to get past the Giants for a wild card spot? What if one of those 2 teams goes into first place in the NL West? They're going to get past the D-backs, who right now are sitting pretty at 47 and 32. That's nowhere near where the Padres are. So it's going to be tough. That's my point, I guess, is it's going to be tough to just be a postseason team this year. And that is not what Padre fans were expecting to be saying here on June 25th. Is there time? Yeah, but it's not early in the season. And as I said on my post-game reaction today, if you're a Padres fan that you're finding it hard to believe in this team and think that this team is going to be a postseason team, I don't blame you, because this team's not playing like it. There are some reasons that I guess you could believe that they could be a postseason team, like the starting pitching, because the starting pitching's been good. The bullpen, for the most part, it's been good. It's been one of the better bullpens in the National League, one of the better bullpens in baseball. But there's nothing lineup-wise, because you can point at one player, but that's not what a lineup is, you know? So really, there's not much lineup-wise that would convince you to believe that this team is going to go be a postseason team right now. Now, they have the talent to turn it around and play like a postseason team, you know, offensively, produce like one. But as of now, they're not. And if you're a fan thinking that, yeah, this team's not a postseason team, I'm not going to say that, yeah, you're an idiot for that, because you're just looking at the performance of this Padres team right now. You're looking at the performance mainly of the offense, and your pitching can be great, but if you don't score runs, you're not going to win games. We saw that last night in the Padres 2-0 loss to the Nats. So yeah, it's frustrating. You know, the whole up-down thing, right? You put together a couple good games or a good game, and then the next night you do nothing. Couple great games, the series finale against the Giants, 13 runs on Friday, and then the next game you get shut out. And then the next game after that, you lose 8-3. And the Nationals are the team that are coming through with huge hits with runners in scoring position, balls in the gap, balls down the line, just out of the reach of some gloves. They're the ones coming up with those hits. The worst team in the National League, the Washington Nationals, that's the team coming up with those hits, not the Padres, not the Padres team that is filled with stars. Not the team that has Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Xander Bogaerts, Jake Cronenworth. Not that team. No. The team whose lineup contains guys like Joey Meneses, Lane Thomas, Luis Garcia, not the pitcher, the second baseman, Candelario, who's like the Nats' like biggest trade chip, Corey Dickerson, Dom Smith. I mean, CJ Abrams is hitting 9th in their lineup, and he went 2 for 3 today. That's the team that's beating the Padres, taking 2 out of 3 against the Padres. And it's just really, really frustrating. So we'll get to all the games here that happened in this series. But first, here's a quick break. Check out Gaglione Bros' famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries on Friars Road. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, for their entire menu and enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well. All right, so just a quick reminder, use that code TalkingFriars for $20 off your SeatGeek order, and you can click that link that's in the description. BreakingT.com for your San Diego sports swag. I see Nomar in the stream room here. So, Nomar, I'll put you on the show. What's up, man? Do you have any thoughts on this Padres team right now? You got me, Nomar? I guess not. Okay. All right. So today, Padres lose 8-3. We'll work our way back. So today, yesterday, and then Friday's game. Today was tough. I mean, going in, I didn't have a great feeling about this game. MacKenzie Gore on the mound against the Padres, the former Padre against the Nats. And I was like, well, it's a former Padre. And he didn't do great against the Padres in DC. So I felt like, yeah, he might learn a few things and do much better. You know, he's at Petco Park this time around. His last time at Petco Park, or his last start at Petco Park, I should say, he was in a Padre uniform. I'm sure there's probably some motivation there, you know, I don't know if AJ was there, but AJ Preller probably sitting in his suite there with his front office, or Peter Seidler at the game. And he's probably like, yeah, I want to shove it up their butt, you know, make them look like fools for trading me. And that's what happened today. He struck out the first 6 guys that he faced. And he only went 5 innings, over 100 pitches for 5 innings. So he could still be more efficient. But when you have 9 punch outs, I think it was 9 punch outs, that's a lot of pitches, right? The pitch count's going to add up when you have that many strikeouts. But too many strikeouts for the Padres side. Like, sure, MacKenzie Gore, it looked like he was on. Obviously, from my seat at Petco, it's not a great angle of where the pitches are, but you could tell that he was feeling good. He was on, and maybe it was part of it. So, excuse me, part of him being on, but also it's Padres hitters just not being able to come through. Like, I'm not a hitting coach. People here listening or watching aren't major league hitting coaches. So it's hard for me to sit here and say what's wrong. What are they doing wrong? Or like look at their, the mechanics of their swing. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just one of the frustrated fans like all of you. And it's like, yeah, they're just not coming through with runners in scoring position. It felt like they were swinging at too many high pitches today. And that seemed like that was part of Gore's preparation, right? Looking at the Padres and like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go fastball up a lot today. That's what it felt like, that they were swinging at a lot of those. And I remember, I think Bogarts grounded one hard into the ground. So they're on top of it, or they're getting under it, or they're striking out on it. But yeah, with runners in scoring position today, like 2 for 9. The runners in scoring position problem continues. It's still an issue. 10 guys left on base. In the 4th inning, there was runners on 1st and 3rd, and Crony struck out. I think he fouled it off into the catcher's glove. In the 5th, 1st and 3rd again. And this time it was Soto up at the plate, and he struck out. 1 of 3 strikeouts today, by the way. 3 punch outs for Soto today. You don't see that very much. In the 6th, Sanchez. He comes up as the pinch hitter. This was a huge moment in the game because I believe at the time it was a 3-1 ball game. And Sanchez, he pinch hits for, I think it was Grish, and he strikes out with the bases loaded. Like, that can't happen in that situation. I know that the pitcher that was in the game there, because Gore had left the game, obviously, it's not like it was a fastball he struck out on. Like, I think it was like the pitch in the 70s. It was a slow pitch. So Gary's probably not used to that. Major league hitters probably aren't used to that slow of velocity. But hey, you're the one getting paid a lot of money, more money than many of us are ever going to see, to go do something in that spot, you know, make contact at least in that spot. Just too many strikeouts today for the Padres. Too many punch outs. They struck out, 12 times today? They had 10 strikeouts through 6 innings. How many did they finish? Yeah, 12. 12 punch outs. Tatis struck out twice. Soto struck out 3 times. Crony struck out twice. And Gary, as a pinch hitter for Grish, struck out twice as well. So that's a lot of at-bats there that you're not even putting the ball in play to give yourself a chance to reach base. So, yeah, it's really frustrating. I'm going to get to the chat. Don't worry. I'll definitely get to the chat. If you want to make sure I get your comment or your question, you can use that super chat button, and I'll make sure to get to it. Makes it really easy for me to find it, and it supports the channel, so I appreciate anyone that does that. But, yeah, the story today is MacKenzie Gore, former Padre, coming into his old yard, his old office, and dominating the Padres. We've seen that a lot from former Padres, right? And it's getting old. It's also what's getting old is Petco being depressed in seventh inning, it feels like. A lot. The game that I've gone to, it feels like a lot of the time. I was at Friday night's game, and obviously that was great, scoring 30 runs, but a lot of the time, sixth, seventh inning, it feels like there's just all the energy has been sucked out of the building because of how the team is playing. And why should the Padres fans? Why should we have energy and enthusiasm about the team the way that they're playing? And when it is the sixth or the seventh inning, and this team is terrible with runners in scoring position, and they're down a few runs, or they're down 5 or 6 runs, and it's like, no one believes you're going to come back. The whole keep the faith thing, I still want to have faith that this team's going to be a postseason team, but the whole keep the faith thing for like a single game, Padre fans see how a game's going, and when it's not going well, they're not going to keep the faith. They're going to show up the next day because they're Padres fans. Like, they're just going to continue to watch the team, but for that night, they shouldn't have energy. So I'm not blaming Padre fans. They've showed up. They have, over 30 sellouts this year at Petco Park, and that's already a record. We're showing up. We're doing our part. Now, can this offense start to do theirs? Please? That's the question. But, yeah, disappointing. And Mike Rizzo right now, the Nationals GM who made that trade with AJ at the deadline last year, he and his front office are laughing their butts off right now. Because right now, this Juan Soto trade doesn't look good. Because it's not a guarantee that the Padres are going to extend him. And if you're a Padres fan, do you want to extend Juan Soto? Do you want to give him, maybe not do you want to extend him, but do you want to give him $500 million? And do the Padres look like they're going to win the World Series this year? Not at this time. And what about next year? Are they going to have Juan Soto on their team next year? Or do they want to trade Juan Soto to get something back because they don't have depth in the farm system? And that's a player that you could sell off and get a significant package for. I mean, this team is already all in, so I don't see that happening. But I'm sure that those conversations are taking place. They're probably taking place on social media among Padres fans. I'm sure those conversations are going to take place at some point. Maybe not this year, but in the offseason, if this year doesn't work out, I'm sure that those conversations will take place in that front office at Petco Park in the offseason. As an option. Should we do this? We'll still have talent on this team if we deal Soto. That conversation is probably going to happen at some point. But yeah, the Nats, here's the thing with them. Sure, they probably wanted to keep Juan Soto, and they made a competitive offer. We're at $400 million or $440, whatever it was. They made their offer. But here's the thing with them. They could afford to trade Juan Soto because they can tell their fan base, we already have that World Series in 2019. We already have that. Guess what? That guy was a big part in that. The Padres, they can't tell the fan base, oh, it's okay, we have the World Series. They're in the win now mode of that, trying to get to that first World Series. Or not get to, win their first World Series. So the Nats, they could sell two things. Already got the championship, and look at all the prospects that we got back. We're going to have a bright future, and we're going to have room to go pay some other guys instead of clogging the payroll with one guy on a huge contract. that may or may not work out. Look at the guys we got back. We got James Wood. He could be the next all-star, superstar outfielder. We got Robert Hassel III. He could be that. What about Yarn Susanna? Got him. You know, that there's guys that they can point to that's like, yeah, we got young talent coming up. Just wait. And we already have the World Series. Padres can't point to that. And win now thing, it is huge because later down the road, if they don't win now, the Soto trade definitely have lost that. I'm talking about down the road if they don't win. And on top of that, you got older players that you have here for a long time. So, yeah, now's the time to win. And it's not looking good at all. It's not looking good. All right, let's get to the chat. I'll get to the other two games in this series. Evan says the San Diego Padres continue to show its presence. Yep. Jace Third says, Ben, are we really Slam Diego anymore? Your song says yes. Yeah, not right now, not the way the team's playing. And I think some fans will probably say that's way past us. And I kind of agree that, yeah, Slam Diego is way past us. But I'm really doing it to show my support more for Joe Dreams and what he does outside the park and his passion than saying and telling the audience, yeah, we're Slam Diego. Because that's not what it is right now. I agree. Devin says, do you think it's the last time Snell, Hader, and Soto will be Padres? What do you mean, like this year? I could see Snell leaving. I think Hader will leave. I don't think the Padres will bring him back. And Juan Soto, like I touched on there a few moments ago, that's going to be a conversation. I guarantee it will be a conversation. If this season does not work out well, it has to be a conversation. At least because AJ Preller throws everything around. He has so many things that he throws out there in his head or to someone, right? Always on his phone. He has so many ideas that he has to just throw out there as wild ideas, right? And if some think that that's trading Soto that last year is a wild idea, well, he's going to ponder it, especially if this season doesn't work out. Maybe he's gone, so maybe he won't be able to ponder it because he'll be gone. But especially if they miss the postseason, like how can you stick with the guy? I get Peter's loyal to him, but how can you stick to a guy, when you miss the postseason with all this talent? And he's the common root, common theme. He's been here for a long time and no World Series appearance. So again, there's still time in this season, but that's just something that's down the road there that if it doesn't work out, yes, the Soto thing will be talked about. Right now, I still sit on the side of I just don't see them doing it, though. I don't see Seidler doing it, approving it, because of how all in he is. Right now, I still feel like he's like, what? You want to trade a guy that I approved you to trade my whole farm system for? You want to trade him? 1 year into this, or 2 pennant races, if it's after the season, 2 pennant races into this thing? Really? You gave away almost my entire farm system, my entire future, and now you want to part with this guy? Seidler could say that too. JD's Third said, knew the bullpen would regress. They can't be locked down all year. Well, yeah, the bullpen today, Honeywell, Hill, they gave up some hard hit balls. And the bullpen did not help the Padres today, but at the end of the day, they scored 1 run through the first 6 innings today. It felt like by the time it was the bottom of the 7th, it was 8-1. Okay. The offense, you score 1 run there. And I get, 8-1. It's like, well, the pitching puts you in a tough spot there. But the offense, my point is, even if the bullpen was bad, I feel like the offense should have had more than 1 run by the time they entered the bottom of the 7th there. Maybe let's say they still gave up 8 runs. Maybe it should have been 8-3, 8-4, instead of 8-1. I think the focus should still be on the offense. Like the bullpen's going to have some bad days or bad nights, and today falls under that. But I mean, come on, you got to put the blame on the offense. I think you still got to put the majority of the blame on the offense. They're the ones that had opportunities before it was 8-1 to come through with guys on base, with guys in scoring position, and they didn't do that. Maybe Bob Melvin would have went to different guys if the Padres would have been in a different situation at that point with the off day. We don't know. Rocket Dog says, I knew Gary Sanchez would fall off. Yeah, he has not been great. What is his? Let me look at his game logs. This is probably entering today because it's on Baseball Reference. But I'm looking up his game logs right now. He went, what, an 8-game stretch without getting a hit? Started off extremely hot, obviously, with the Padres. But this is since June 9th, looks like. And this is entering today. So not including today, where Gary went 0 for 2 with a couple punch-outs. And obviously a big one coming with the bases loaded. Last 15 games entering today. He is 149 with a 340 slugging percentage, a 571 OPS. He has 9 RBIs, has a few home runs, but he has 14 punch-outs in 47 at-bats, 14 punch-outs, 15 games, 12 starts, 149 average. And Gary, I don't look at the numbers, but he doesn't strike me as someone that walks a bunch. You know, the on-base percentage, it's not a lot higher than the average. So, yeah, the catching position, it's not in a good spot right now. And there's some injury updates here. So, we can start with the catching position. Campy, he caught Darvish's bullpen and faced coach pitching recently, according to Kevin Acee. So, does that mean that we're going to see Campy back before, or not before, probably, after the All-Star break? Like right after the All-Star break? If he's catching bullpens and he's facing coach pitching, I would think that in the next few weeks he's going to be in rehab games, I would imagine. I hope. So that would be good news, but even when he comes back, it's not going to be a guarantee that he's going to perform amazingly well and save this catching position and become, you know, the starting catcher for the Padres for the next 5 years or next 3 years or however long until Ethan Salas comes up, if the Padres don't trade him to try to save their season. I don't even know if he could be traded because he's not 18, but you get my point. Yeah, Campy's not a guarantee to be great. And right now, we know what Nola is. Just got to accept it. And Gary, he has fallen back down to earth. And so you're seeing probably more of a level playing time split between Gary and Nola because the Padres were going to go with Gary, ride him until he fell off, and then he fell off. And so now they're going back to more even time because pitchers, whether you like it or not, pitchers, they still like Austin. They still like pitching to him. I'm not saying they don't with Gary, but they still like pitching to him. And whether you like it or not as well, that still matters. That matters. And I don't know if we can quantify that, like how much that matters, or see that when we're watching the game. Oh, okay, well, the Padres pitchers, the Padres pitchers, they really respond well to Nola, or, you know, you get my point. Like it's hard to quantify that probably, like who is the better catcher for the pitchers. But if both aren't hitting, you're going to have Gary catch way more games than Nola. I don't know if the Padres feel like that's the best thing to do. Matt says, Ben, they are finished. Acceptance, my friend. Yeah. So Matt, if you're kind of new to this show, Matt and I believe we made a bet weeks ago about this team, and he thought that the Padres were going to finish above 500, or no. He thought they were going to finish below, like they weren't going to get back to 500. And I totally disagreed with that. And right now he's looking much better than I am, but I got to hold out hope because my side of the bet is on that they will get back over 500. And the good thing for me, Matt, is that there is plenty of time still to get back over 500. The playoffs thing, it doesn't look great right now. Definitely going to admit that. But they can, they're 4 games under 500. They can get back to at least over 500 at some point this year. And that was the bet, Matt. Remember, at some point this year, I don't believe it was finished the season. It was at some point this year, if they get over 500, I win. So we'll see what happens. But no, acceptance, I don't think we should accept. Like I said on my post-game reaction, don't lower your expectations. Because when you lower your expectations, just so you don't feel bad when they lose or whatever, that's not holding them accountable. That's just letting them continue to not meet those expectations. You should not change your expectations for this team. Is it disappointing? Of course. But don't change it, because then you're going to let them fail. You're changing your expectations, and you're like, okay, if you're expecting them to lose, then all of a sudden you're going to be fine with them losing, and you're just going to, not hold them accountable. But if you keep those high expectations and you keep being pissed off that they're not playing up to their level of expectations, and they continue to disappoint you, guess what? That's holding them accountable. So I'm keeping the same level of expectation for this team. And I'll just keep saying they're very disappointing. They're definitely disappointing the fan base, and they're definitely disappointing everyone that, roots for this team and is invested in this team. They're disappointing themselves. Someone here says players need to take accountability. I think they are taking accountability. Like Bogaerts, he's the first person to say, yeah, I suck right now. Fernando, didn't he say, I think going into today's game, like, yeah, must-win game, essentially, is what he was saying. Bogaerts saying, yeah, we got to we got to hammer these teams, like the Nats, like the Pirates. We'll see if they can do it against the Pirates, but they obviously weren't able to do it against the Nats. They did it on Friday, but then they didn't do it in the last couple games of the series. I think Bob Melvin has held the team accountable, saying that, yeah, the fans deserve better. And, not playing up to expectations right now. Disappointing, underwhelming. I think they are being held accountable. Even Manny, finally, for those that want to say that, yeah, Manny, he needs to be more accountable. This season, he has not been accountable enough. I can sort of agree to that until what he said on Friday. Because before Friday's game, he was asked, I think it was by Marty Caswell, he was asked in the clubhouse, is this, I think she asked about the hitting coaches and the manager when the team's not playing well, right? And Manny was like, it's not on them. If you're going to blame anyone, essentially, is what he was saying, it's on us. Blame us. Don't blame them. The coaching staff, don't blame Bob Melvin. Don't blame the hitting coaches. The hitting coaches give us all the information we need. They stay up till 3, 4 in the morning. They don't get sleep. He was being accountable there. It's on us. It's on the players. We needed to do better. That's pretty much what Manny was saying on Friday. So the players are taking accountability for it. They're pissed off for it. That's not going to stop us from being pissed off about it as well. JD's Third says, washed up stars. We don't have any all-stars this year. I disagree with that. I mean, one, because you have to have an all-star. I think Hader's an all-star. I think Tatis is an all-star. We'll see about Soto. We'll see about Waka. We'll see about Snell. But there's definitely an all-star in this team. But there's a lot of all-star players that we thought may have been, and they have been in the past going into the year. A lot of those players that they're definitely not sniffing the all-star game this year. All right, let's talk about Saturday's game. I'll get back to the chat. So on Saturday, the Padres, they lose 2-0. Couple solo home runs. Matt Waldron, he was called up for this start, and that was because the Padres, they just don't have anything else depth-wise. Ryan Weathers, I think, because he was recently sent down, there's like a timetable or a certain amount of time where he can't be called back up. So he wasn't an option. Reese Kinnear, I guess, wasn't an option either because they brought him up today in place of Waldron and had him be in the bullpen. So we'll see if he's on the roster come the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati road trip here. But yeah, Waldron got the ball, and he's not the reason why the Padres lost. The offense, again, is the reason why they lost. Like, you score no runs, you're not going to win the game. Don't know if you guys knew that or not. Don't know if the Padres know that. Yeah, no runs. Again, Waldron gave up a couple solos, but it seemed like he kept the Nats offense pretty off balance. But the Padres offense, whenever they had a runner in scoring position, which was not very many times, they went 0 for 2 last night with runners in scoring position. So it's not like they had a ton of opportunities. Like today, for example, they had 2 for 9. Yesterday, 0 for 2. 7 left on base. So it wasn't just the runners in scoring position, but when they got someone on, one guy on, you didn't do anything after that. Bottom of the first, they had first and second, Bogey struck out. Bottom of the second, Gary singled, Odor then struck out, Grish got out as well. Bottom of the third, Soto had a single, but then Manny grounded out to short. Bottom of the fourth, Gary walked, then Odor struck out looking. Bottom of the fifth, first and second, Manny popped out. Tatis and Soto were on base, by the way, there. So some guys at the top of the order getting on, or some guys just in the rest of the lineup getting on, just can't do anything else after that. And that's been the story of this season, and it's been super, super frustrating. And I'm getting tired of coming on here, after every series and saying, yep, same old story, offense, with the exception of some series. Same old story, offense not coming through. They have the opportunities to come through, can't come through. Playing a bad team, can't win the series. Play the freaking Royals, can't win that series. You play the freaking Nationals, who, even with the win today, are 30-47. They're the worst team in the National League. And lost that series. I'm tired of it, especially when it's in front of the fans. Especially over 40,000 fans at all these games, over 30 sellouts on the season. And this is what the Padres have given us this year. It's so frustrating. It really is. I wish I had more to add about these games, but what else is there to say about this team, this offense right now? There were some people at the game today that were talking about the averages on the Padres, and no one's over 300. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, in my head, that's not what baseball is. How many guys are hitting over 300 in baseball? Right now. Probably not very many. I haven't looked at it, but probably not very many. But the average does tell part of the story. Tatis, 288, or that was, 286 now. Okay, fine. Soto, 273, okay. But Manny, you'd like him to be a little bit higher. Again, I don't want to harp on the average too much, but that is still part of the story. That's part of how you can get on base with hits. If the average is bad, it's telling some of the story. It has to be. Crony, 210. It needs to be higher, especially when you're Jake Cronenworth and don't rely on the power, right? We know Matt Carpenter, 178. I mean, that has to be higher. Come on. Trent Grisham, 207. That has to be higher. So it's some of those guys where it's like, wow, yeah, that's pretty alarming there. Nat yesterday came up with a couple big hits, went over the fence, and that ended up being the difference. But, Waldron, again, he was not the issue. Give up 2 runs, like I said in my post-game reaction yesterday. You give up 2 runs. If you were to tell me before the game, yeah, this guy's going to give up 2, I would have probably said, yeah, Padres, they have a really good shot at winning this game. And they score 0 runs. Again, it's just super frustrating. I don't know how long Waldron's going to last. I'm not talking about like right now. He's probably going to go back. He already has been sent back down because Michael Wacha is expected to make his next outing. I didn't even finish the injury update, so I'll get to that here in a second. But I'm talking about like in the major leagues, if he gets called back up again or if he has a significant stretch of time in the big leagues, I don't know how long he's going to last with a mid 90s to low 90s fastball. And the knuckleball, I don't know how much that's going to keep guys off balance. There were some swings yesterday from the Nats where it was super late because they were expecting the knuckleball and they got the fastball, or they were expecting a breaker, another breaking pitch, and they got a fastball. But I don't know, with the more film and major league hitters and hitting coaches, right, and analytical people, like, being more familiar with him if he is at the big league level for a significant period of time, I don't know how much success he's going to continue to have. But he was fine yesterday, and we'll see if he comes back up for the Padres at some point this year. But the Padres didn't want him starting that game yesterday. Obviously, they want Wacha healthy, but they want someone else better just in the minor leagues, but they just don't have the depth, right? Ryan Weathers, he's working on a curveball, I think, is what I saw somewhere. And Julio Teheran has left the organization. Jay Groom, the good start that he had in spring training, that's out the window. He has like a 9 ERA in El Paso. And I know El Paso, it's hitter friendly, it's not pitcher friendly, but it still has to tell some of the story, right? It's not all because, it's not at sea level. Tell some of it. So they just don't have anything. So maybe that's something that AJ goes and gets at the trade deadline, because I just don't see them selling again. I don't see it. Goes and gets some starting pitching depth, because you can never have enough of that. But I think we can agree, like, his focus should be more on the offense. Like, if guys get hurt in the rotation, okay, they get hurt and Padres are probably screwed. But with the offense, like, you got to hope that the rotation stays healthy. With the offense, those guys are healthy, and I think they got to realize, like, yeah, these guys, they're not going to get the job done. You got to get upgrades. Maybe it's the catching position. Maybe it's a corner outfielder. Have Tatis move to center and have Grish be a bench guy, or include him in a trade. Maybe it's something at first base or DH. You have Crony move to second, but I think they want Kim to play because they like what they're seeing out of him. And I just don't believe that they're going to have Crony go be a bench player. So maybe it's corner outfield and DH, offensively. That's where they're going to have their focus. Deadline, it's still a long ways away, over a month. But again, like I said at the beginning of the show, that popped into my head. What is this team going to do at the deadline? Where do they need to upgrade? I don't see them being a seller. I just don't see them doing that when they've been all in all year long. They're going into the year, the moves that they made in the offseason, it expressed like, yeah, we're going all in. Doesn't matter what happens. Did they have a backup plan? I'm sure you have to in the front office. Like, this season absolutely sucks. But they probably were laughing while they were AJ was probably laughing while he was constructing a backup plan. How can I get out of this if this doesn't work out? He was probably laughing. Ha ha ha. I'm just doing this because I have to. It's not going to happen. Well, look what's happened right now. On Friday, Padres, they were able to win 13-3. That's good, right? Back-to-back great offensive games. The series finale against the Giants, series opener against the Nats here. Bogarts homered, Soto homered, Ha-Seong Kim homered. It was great. Great fan atmosphere at Petco. Petco was alive. But then, the next couple games, that becomes the focus of us at the end of the weekend. We're not talking about the first game of this series. Oh, remember, hey, positivity. They scored 13 runs against the Nats in the series opener. No, we're not talking about that, because that's not something that's been sustainable this year. That's not something that's been consistent this year. That's been Yeah, every few games they'll have a good game like that, or once a week or a couple times a week they'll explode, but it's not consistent. So we're not going to talk about, oh, yeah, that's turning the corner there. Oh, this is what this Padres team is. This is the real Padres. No, it's not. It's not the real Padres. It'll be the real Padres when they prove that they can do that consistently. I'm not saying 13 runs, but can they consistently score 5 runs for a stretch of time? Can they find a way to just win games consistently? How's that? Can they find a way to get over 500? Let's start there. So yeah, Friday. It's hard for me to talk in depth about Friday because it feels like so long ago because of the disappointment of the last 2 days. I mean, look at the first 3 guys in the order. Kim, Tatis, and Soto on Friday combined for 7 hits, 7 runs scored. Guess what? They combined to score more runs than the Padres scored in the last 2 games. 5 runs combined Saturday and Sunday. 7 runs for the top 3 hitters in the Padres lineup on Friday. Just lack of consistency. And it's so frustrating. And sometimes you might not think I'm very enthusiastic about this team with my voice or whatever, but it's because sometimes I just get, I don't know, just tired of, I guess that's the right word, tired of continuing to say the same thing about this team, after every series. Just, rinse and repeat. Might as well replay some shows and just have AI replace Royals with Nationals or replace Team X with Nationals, because it feels like it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. Friday night they got to 37 and 39, but when the weekend's over, they're 37 and 41. It feels like they're right back where they were. They lost a series to the Giants before this series against the Nats. They lost that series. That's a series they should have won. And this series, they didn't play they didn't deserve to win the series because of how they played the last 2 games. But you look at Saturday's game, it's like you lost 2-0. You should have found a way to win that game. Today, you want to say, oh, well, the pitching, they gave up 8 runs. Okay. But like yesterday, you were down 2-0. You got to go win that game. So super frustrating. Bogart's first home run on Friday since May 23rd. He's been working obviously very hard, trying to fix his swing. And I don't know if you guys saw this it was on Friday in Kevin's newsletter. He was talking about how Bogarts was taking the iPads to his hotel room, staying up early in the morning, watching the video, just to try to find something that was wrong. The next day it goes 0 for 4. So just things aren't going great for him. So it was good to see him have that pop on Friday, but that's definitely an afterthought on the series. Again, people aren't, if you're going to listen to the sports talk radio shows tomorrow, are they going to be talking about Friday night a bunch? Like, oh, what a win. No, they're probably going to be spending a majority of time on the last 2 games of the series. Like, yep, it's the same old Padres this year. Look at where they are in the standings. What are they going to do at the deadline? What can they do at the deadline with the farm system? Like, that's probably going to be the discussion. I'm sure there'll probably be some more Bob Melvin talk, which I just think is ridiculous, or AJ Preller talk, which is not ridiculous at the end of the season if this doesn't go well. I definitely acknowledge that. I see Jason here with a super chat just popped in here, so I want to get to that. Jason says, AJ is the obvious issue. Too much talent not to be playing better. Hope Peter starts to realize that. Feel terrible for the fans. Great show. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate the kind words. Jay feels like he is one of the issues here. But going into the year, was I excited about this team, the talent on this team? Yes. Were thousands of San Diegans, hundreds of thousands of San Diegans probably excited about this team? Yes. Why? Because they had the talent. We thought they had the talent to win the World Series or be a World Series contender, right? That's AJ's the same guy. He's the guy that constructed that. Look at what he has built. So you could go that angle. You could also go the angle of, yeah, they, with him, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you have the talent, but look at the results. No World Series. End of story, right? Look at their record right now. You could go with that angle. I definitely understand that. But I was talking with some friends about this on Friday at the game. I'm like, I'm an AJ Preller guy, but I also recognize that he has some issues as well. Like, I would like him to step back on the micromanaging, allow other people to do their jobs, rely on 4 or 5 people in the organization that are experts at a certain thing in the organization and rely on them. Okay, you can dip your foot into the water in all parts, but don't be so heavily invested in all parts. I think it would be the best thing. And again, I don't know his daily schedule or everything that he does or exactly how involved he is, but we're reading reports and in the media and seeing that stuff. And I definitely buy it. I don't buy everything that's out there, but I do buy some of it for sure. And he did construct the roster that made it to the NLCS last year. And a lot of those same guys are on this team this year and just aren't performing. So is that on AJ or is that on the players? Right? Xander Bogaerts, some didn't like the contract, but we knew going into the year, man, this guy is a freaking talented player, right? And what has happened? He has underperformed. Is that on AJ or is that on Xander Bogaerts? We know the answer that Xander would give. Is Manny's underperforming just in totality this year? Him underperforming, is that on AJ Preller or is that on Manny? Manny would tell you it's on him. Are the players struggling? Is that on Bob Melvin or is that on the players? The players would tell you it's on them. All right, like I could go down the line. It's on the players for the most part here. If AJ doesn't make the postseason, Padres don't make the postseason with the roster that he constructed, I definitely understand why Peter would feel the need to let him go. But at the end of the day, like bottom line, the players need to be better. They need to be better. Bottom line. All right. Be back after this.
I want to tell you about the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. It's Underdog Fantasy. They have great pick'em games and best ball tournaments. In pickup games, just pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 players' stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. You can go cross-team, cross-league, and even cross-sport. Best ball revolves around the draft, which is what every fan loves the most about fantasy, and it eliminates the hassle of having to manage your roster all season long, resulting in a fun and easy fantasy product. How does it work exactly? You enter a contest where you participate in a snake draft against other users. That lineup that you drafted competes against every other draft in the entire contest. The better the combined performance of your team, the more money you win. After your lineup is all played, Underdog will take the best performing players and automatically set them as your starting lineup. That's it. No waivers, no trades, no worrying about who to start or sit. After you complete your draft, your part is done. Underdog Fantasy offers best ball in a variety of ways, including daily contests, weekly contests, playoff contests, and season-long contests. You can either enter into these and compete against thousands of other entrants for huge prizes, or, if you'd like, you can enter into a private draft with friends and family to compete for a smaller prize pool. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Sign up now by clicking the link in the description or by using the promo code TALKINGFRIARS, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. So if you deposit $100, you get $100 free. If you deposit $10, you get $10 free.
All right, back to the chat here. I think my underdog pick today, right? Lugo 4 punch-outs, it was higher. Lugo ended up getting exactly 4 punch-outs. So, everyone's losing today. And this weekend, San Diego sports was a losing town. And we'll get to the San Diego Wave and what happened there in a little bit, because that was interesting. Getting to the comments here, there's a lot in here, so I might not get to everyone, but I'm going to get to as many as I can here. There are some that are talking amongst yourselves, and I love that, but I'm going to skip through those. I'm looking for the comments or the questions that I should address here. JD's Third says superstars don't even like AJ Preller. Well, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, are those superstars? Fernando Tatis Jr. signed that extension. AJ Preller's involved in that. Is he not? Yu Darvish signed that extension. Is AJ Preller involved in that? Yes. You're not going to be able to get every superstar. Like, if you want to bring the argument of Trey Turner or Aaron Judge, they didn't come here, they didn't want to be here. AJ's why? Like, what? Aaron always wanted to be with the Yankees. Trey Turner, his wife, wanted to be on the East Coast. Like, they weren't going to come to the Padres. It wasn't really because of the Padres. It was more because of their just personal desires just going into the offseason, regardless of what they were being offered. Usually, if the money's there, they'll take it. But again, it came down to those personal desires for them. Let's see here. JD's third, says Padres media are AJ's puppets. They never have a harsh or true thing to say about this ball club. They will lose credentials. I disagree. I think Padres media, there are some that aren't like super tough on the Padres, but I think most are criticizing the Padres right now. Like, how can you be super positive about the Padres right now? So I disagree with that. Matt says the playoffs are done. This bet is all we have. Look, I still want to keep the faith on the playoffs long term. I don't think that the playoffs are done on June 25th. I'm not going to say that, but they're not in a good spot. Like I talked about, 7 games back in the wild card right now, 9.5, I think, in the division. And usually the wild card, if you're back far in the division, at least, you're probably closer in the wild card. Padres aren't much closer in the wild card. So yeah, that's a little scary. Rex says Arizona is winning with young, good players under manageable contracts. Yeah, that's something that the Padres aren't doing. They don't have a lot of those young, inexpensive contracts, right? But Arizona is also in a little bit of a different spot. Like, sure, the on-field guys are trying to win, but was the front office thinking that, realistically, was the front office thinking that they were going to be one of the best teams in baseball? No. Come on. I think they're lying if they actually said, yeah, I believe we'll be one of the best teams in baseball this year, months into the season. I think they'd be lying if they said that. But yeah, they're in a different spot than the Padres are. The Padres, they're trying to win right now. They have an owner willing to spend a ton of money. And they have a GM that's willing to trade a bunch of pieces to get superstars on the team. I do wish that obviously the Padres would have some of that. What the Rays have, what the Dodgers have, what the D-backs have right now. Some of those younger players that have the lesser contracts, because the Padres, they're not going to be able to keep this up. This isn't going to be their payroll for the next decade. This is their payroll for the next few years probably, or the next couple years, but it's not going to be this high for a long time. Like, at some point, you're not going to be able to keep handing out these huge contracts, these high AAV contracts. At some point, you need some of the younger players, and we'll see how that happens. When does Jackson Merrill come up, if he even stays in the farm system? When does Ethan Salas come up, obviously? Years down the road, what year is that? Does Luis Camposano turn into something? Because if he does, that would help, because that's less money you'd have to spend on the catching position. Relievers or starters, are there any starting pitchers in the farm system that will come up and help? I don't see that right now, but I don't dive super deep into the farm system, just being honest, with this team right now, because the focus should be on the major league team right now. But part of the story is the minor leagues and the lack of depth. But yeah, Rex, Arizona is winning with some young, good players under manageable contracts. And the Padres, they have a lot of big contracts with those guys underperforming right now. JD's third says, imagine if we had Freddie, Mookie, and JD Martinez right now. Well, here's the thing. So Dodgers, they pick JD Martinez, or JD Martinez picks them, I guess. And the Padres with DH, they get Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter. How's that playing out right now? It's like that stuff. Like, the guys that the Padres pick don't turn out to be like the Dodger caliber player. It always feels like the Dodgers, the guys they pick, they end up being the great players. And the Padres, the guys that they pick, they end up not. Yeah. I would have loved to have JD Martinez. I think I said it before the season when JD signed with the Dodgers. Like, yeah, that would have been a nice bat to have. But I did like the Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz moves. Like, I definitely understood it. You know, Nelson Cruz, low salary, the eye surgery, I did buy into that. Matt Carpenter coming off a good year when he was healthy, can play a little bit of first base. I like those deals, the platoon there, the numbers platoon wise. Like, I was buying into that, but obviously right now that's not looking great. And you say JD's third. Imagine if we had Freddie, Mookie, and JD. Imagine if we had, but Freddie and Mookie, I'll talk about those first two. Okay. You know, our first base position, yeah, Jake Cronenworth doesn't compare to Freddie Freeman. I get that. But we do have some other star players in other positions that the Dodgers don't have, right? We have Manny Machado, who's supposed to be better than Max Muncy, and Manny's underperforming, right? We have Juan Soto in there in right field, or left field. We have Tatis in right field with Mookie, right? Who's the better player, Mookie or Tatis? I think they're pretty close. You could probably say Mookie, but they're pretty close, right? We have other stars at other positions that should be able to replicate the production those Dodgers guys are having there that you named, but they're just not doing it this year. It's not like the Padres, their team is comprised of Corey Spangenberg and Ryan Schimpf and Will Venable. You know, it's superstar players that some of them have not performed like superstars this year. Charlie says Padres lost to the Royals and Nationals, split a series with the Rockies. All three teams are last place in their own division. And yeah, I go to the Bogey comment about him thinking that the Padres should be hammering these types of teams, right? With the talent that is on this Padres team, you got to be hammering these teams, and the Padres haven't done that. The great teams around baseball, I haven't looked personally, but the best teams in baseball right now, you probably go look at their schedule results, and those bad teams, they probably won those series, maybe swept those series, the best teams. And the Padres can't put themselves in that category as one of the best teams. They haven't done it. You know, those wins, they stack up, they add up. The losses also add up, unfortunately. So they find themselves under 500 in part because of their play against bad teams. Captain Zeno says Azokar has been hot lately. He's not even on the roster. I totally forgot about that. I think I was looking at the roster earlier this morning or yesterday. I forget when it was. And I'm like, oh, yeah. The bench help for the Padres in the outfield right now, it's Brandon Dixon and Rougned Odor, if you want to include him. That's it. Zokar's not even on the roster. They don't have depth. David Dahl's obviously gone. Adam Engel's gone. The depth that you thought that they maybe had at the start of the year, which wasn't great, but some names, that's gone. So yeah, it's not great. Just depth all around. It's not great. Rex says, imagine if we had Fried, Gore, Quantrill, Naylor, and the Tampa Bay catchers that used to be ours. Yeah, but that's easy to say, right? Weren't a lot of fans happy when the Padres traded for Clevenger? Sure, they give up pieces, but it was Mike Clevenger that they were getting back. Weren't Padres fans happy when the Padres traded for, was it the Snell trade? I think a lot of Padres fans were, because they saw Blake Snell coming off of the World Series performance and they saw the name. It was like, yeah, look at the control they have for him. This is great. You could say the same thing about the Nats trade with Soto. Were we all not pumped up about the Juan Soto trade? Holy crap, we got Juan Soto on the Padres. If you had that opinion then, I'm sorry. You saying that was a horrible trade now, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You can say that the trade hasn't worked out, but to say like that was a horrible trade, they should have never made that trade. Well, you were for it at the time. And so you can't use hindsight because AJ can't use hindsight. The Padres can't use hindsight on it. At the time, would you have done it? Maybe some would have said no. But if you're trying to go all in and win a World Series, you would say yes. And that's what the Padres did. The hopes of winning are not over. They're just dwindling out there. It's just getting... Maybe some Padre fans have lost hope, but there are Padre fans that are losing hope as well. Or they've lost a lot of it. Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about the injury updates. So Michael Wacha, he's expected to make his next start on Friday against Cincinnati, who's playing really well. It's not the old Reds team that was like, oh, this team sucks. So that might be a tough series this next weekend. He played catch on Saturday. Then Robert Suarez and Tom Cosgrove, Suarez with the elbow, Cosgrove with the hammy. They will face hitters Tuesday in Arizona. So that's positive news there. And then we got to Campy, caught Darvish's bullpen, faced coach pitching recently. So he's ramping up the baseball activity. So hopefully he can get on a rehab assignment here in a little bit and the Padres can get him back. I'm very interested in seeing what the move is when Campy comes back. Because I don't see them carrying 3 catchers. So is Gary going to be gone, or are they going to option Nola? Because they can do that. Maybe some forget that, but they can do that. We'll see what happens there. But those are some of the injury updates for today. Night Boy asks, what was Padres' record last year at the All-Star break? Much better than this year, I'll tell you that. Obviously, we're not at the All-Star break yet, but I think I saw something where the Padres, they're going to be guaranteed to have a losing record at the halfway point. All-Star break, I think, is a little more further than the halfway point, but they're guaranteed to have a losing record at the halfway point this year. But going to the 2022 Padres at the All-Star break, I think 52-42. I'm just looking at the baseball reference and seeing the little break there. Yeah, I think 52-42, 10 games over 500, and they're 4 games under right now. So yeah, a lot different. A lot different this year. And we thought going into this year that this team's better than last year's team, and that just hasn't been the case this year. Kelly says Padres need to sell. This is the team an average team, and the trend will continue. There are going to be Padres fans that are going to say this team needs to sell, and trading Soto would be smart to get stuff back. And I'm not saying that's a bad take, but I just don't see the Padres doing that. Maybe sell some pieces, but not a major piece like Soto when they're going all in on this year. Maybe in the offseason they do it, but I don't see them waving the, what is it, a white flag or the red flag? I forget what the saying is, but I don't see them waving the flag, surrendering at the All-Star break. And they'd be doing that. If I get they would still have a talented team if they traded Soto, but you can't tell your fans we're trying to win by trading Soto. Yeah, we're going all in by trading a guy you just traded your whole farm system for the year prior. I agree, Captain Zano. Need a DH. Carp and Cruz, they're not getting the job done. We'll see what upgrades the Padres can make there. I'd be surprised if they don't make an upgrade there in some fashion. Or maybe it's positional, like someone else moves to DH and they go acquire another position player. That just makes the team better. I don't know, but yeah, those guys aren't getting the job done, and it doesn't look like that's going to turn. So maybe it's Cruz because he has a smaller salary. He just gets, what would it be, released? And they just go get someone else there because it's not working great right now. Matt Carpenter right now, he's hitting 178, and Nelson Cruz is hitting 242. But I think if we all watch Nelson Cruz up at the plate, do we think that, this guy can hit a home run right now? Like, are we super confident when Nelson Cruz steps up to the plate? Like, I'm not. Captain Zano says maybe Bogaerts needs to DH for a while to rest that wrist. Yeah, but if he's DHing, he's still swinging the bat, and that's been part of the issue, I think, with Bogaerts is he's developed some bad habits with the wrist. And so, because he was trying to compensate for something, stop feeling the pain, I guess. And so he developed bad habits, and he's probably still in those bad habits a little bit. So him swinging still when he has a wrist injury, how much is that going to help? And I've said this before, I thought they should have put him on the IL when he took that initial break before that Colorado series. Just put him on the IL. Stop waiting. Get him fully right. And they didn't do that. I don't see them putting him on the IL now. Yeah, no, Will Myers isn't coming back. I mean, is he a better option than Nelson Cruz right now or Matt Carpenter right now? I don't know. I think he probably helps the team in more ways, especially than Nelson Cruz. I mean, because he can play multiple positions. He's not just a DH who plays a little bit of the time, but he wasn't having a great season either. And the Padres, they're past that now. As much as someone who I'm a Will Myers fan, partly because like he was with us during all the hard times. And he loves the fans back. Like he actually appreciates them, unlike some other guys that have come through. I think that, I recognize that the Will Myers time is done here. David says no manager, no coaches, no staff should ever get fired. Oh, I think he's saying this because I have the take that it's on the players. No, I'm fine with coaches getting fired if they're not getting if like results aren't happening and maybe the players don't think that they're getting enough information and stuff, or things aren't translating to them. Like the staff can't translate the numbers to the players on things that they should do. But when you have this talented of a roster and you have a manager that's Bob Melvin, it's not Jace Tingler that's managing this team. Like Bob Melvin, I think he knows what he's doing for the most part. Okay. When you have that in place and you have all of these stars in place and the job's not getting done, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to fully blame the coaching staff and the manager and saying, yeah, fire that guy. That's going to change it. When you have a lot of talent on the field that is not playing up to that talent level, it's hard for me to do that. If they miss the postseason, I don't know if Melvin would get fired. Maybe he steps down. There would probably be changes on the coaching staff. There'd probably be changes in the front office too, which would change the coaching staff as well. But no, I'm open to the coaching staff changes, but for a reason. And right now, it doesn't feel like there's a reason to do it. I think, again, just be pissed off at the players for not doing their job. Someone here says Padres need better players. Okay, maybe in some positions they need better players, but it's not like the Padres are going to go trade for Ronald Acuna Jr. or they can go sign Shohei Ohtani right now. They're on teams. Those guys aren't being traded. They're not going somewhere else. Going into the year, did we sit here and say, Padres, they need a lot of better players? No, we sat here and said, this is a dang good team. There's a lot of talent on this team. Some are saying Padres going to win the NL West. A lot of talent on this team. So do we need better players? Some better players we do. Or do we just need our best players that are making millions of dollars to perform like they're being paid? Perform up to that level. Hopefully, people in the chat that are calling for Hosmer, they're just being sarcastic. All right, there's a lot of insane stuff going on in the comments. So I'm going to talk about some other San Diego sports real quick. So the San Diego Loyal this weekend, they lost 2-1 to Pittsburgh, and this was their first match in a little bit. They were on the road after having some home games at Torero Stadium. So the Loyal, they now dropped to 6-5-5 on the year, 23 points. And in this loss, it was a close match for sure. Perez scored for the Loyal in the 42nd minute, but Pittsburgh scored in the 69th minute. And then there was a header in the 91st minute. It looked like maybe this was going to be a draw, hard-fought match, but then obviously late allowed that header, and that was kind of the same thing with the Wave. So we'll get to the Wave here. The San Diego Wave said, not today, San Diego Wave on Saturday, their last match before Alex Morgan, Naomi Girma, Kaylin Sheridan, Sophia Jakobsen, Emily Van Egmond, before those players went to their international camps. And so this was a big match because you're playing OL Reign, who's one of the better teams in the league. And you want to get that win, one, to make your home fans happy, because the Wave, I think it's now 5 matches that they have not been able to win at home. So it's been a while. But also because you're going to be missing some of your best players. So let's, this is the last chance to get it before, hopefully, before late August, maybe into September, that you're going to be without some of your best players on this team if the U.S. Women's National Team goes as far as we hope that they do. So maximize the wins, take advantage of the time that you have these superstar players, right? And the Wave, credit to them. They fought hard in this match on Saturday night against OL Reign. And they got screwed at the end by the refs for sure. And I'll get to that. But they also did have some chances as well that they weren't able to capitalize on. In the 8th, minute, there was a header by Balser. She actually scored twice in this match. That made it 1-0 for OL Reign. The Wave, by the way, they have not beaten OL Reign yet in the club's history. Jaden Shaw had a header in the 47th minute from Alex Morgan. A great assist from Alex Morgan. She's going down the right corner, cuts back to create an opening. The pass, a header by Shaw into the back of the net, and that ties it up at 1. And then Balser again had a header late in the 77th minute, I believe. And that was one where kind of left her open, wasn't able to cover it. And the Wave have had some of those. Maybe not all of them headers, but maybe not covering. I think Balser was the back player on the pass. And so failing to cover those players in the back there and letting them kind of sit back there and have an easier opening, I guess. So yeah, it was a disappointing ending. They had chances though. Like there was the 83rd minute. Ali had a great chance. And by the way, there was a foul there. I saw that replay. I did not see it in the moment, but I saw that on social media today, and that was a foul. How did the refs not see the almost dragging down of Ali? Maybe they did drag her down, but there was I think there were 2 hands on her, dragging her down. It was a pass in by Morgan. Good pass. And Ali, I think it was left foot, and it went wide left. She couldn't get it in. There was a chance there. There was a chance late. I think Korniak maybe could have went with the header on it and maybe could have put it in the back of the net there. But instead, she tried to go with her foot on a pass and couldn't reach it. There were some chances. Morgan, there was one kind of one-on-one, her and the goalie. The goalie came out of the box and came out and got it from Morgan, and then Morgan was blocked again on the rebound. So they had chances and couldn't come through, but I'm proud that they fought. And the end of the match should not have ended the way that it did. Maybe the Wave would have still lost the match 2-1, but Sheridan gets a red card in what minute? I think it was past the 90th minute. I think it was in stoppage time. Gets the red card because she interfered with one of the OL Reign players. She was out of the box and she was just going to go get the ball. The OL Reign player did not have full possession of the ball, and it's not like Sheridan went and just was going for the player, like intentionally. She was going for the ball, and so I don't think that should have been a red card. And I was reading post-game quotes from Casey Stoney, the manager, obviously, and she was saying how they couldn't sub out a player at that time. And so maybe the formation was not as good as they wanted it. Strategy-wise, I think that's what she was referring to. Could have been better. But yeah, it was a frustrating ending because obviously when you have the red card, now you're down a player. Yanez made a great save, by the way, right when she had to come into the match to keep it at a 1-score match. But you're down Sheridan and you're down another player, and they still had some chances too, but you would have liked to have that extra player, obviously. So yeah, that was a disappointing ending, and there's a picture online. I posted on my personal social at BenFaddenSD on Twitter, which is where all my other thoughts are, non-Padres. Obviously, at Talking Friars for the Padres stuff. I posted a picture of the expressions on Korniak's face, and I think it was Shaw, Westfall. They were like, and Sheridan, they were like, what? They were so surprised that the red card came out at that point. It should not have been a red card. But again, Wave had some chances. And so it's been a while since they've won a match at home. And now their next match is away from Snapdragon. It's going to be at Angel City. This is a Challenge Cup match, though, so it doesn't count towards the regular standings. And now the Wave, they're going to start a stretch where they don't have Alex Morgan. They don't have Naomi Girma. Now, other teams don't have their superstar players as well. And I think the Wave, they have good depth. I believe in the depth of this squad. And I think that they can survive here. It's just disappointing that they were, especially these last couple games, they weren't able to win these last couple of games, with these last games being close, being at home, having some chances, and having their best players available, on the squad. So Angel City on Wednesday, and then in Chicago on Saturday to face off against the Chicago Red Stars. And then they're back home, their next home match, July 8th, against Ashley Hatch in the Washington Spirit. Ashley Hatch obviously did not make the U.S. Women's National Team roster. So there'll still be some star power there for the Washington Spirit. But some positives here for the Wave when these players are gone is that Ali and Shaw are probably going to star for this team. And Mel Barcenas, she will probably get some more playing time, I would imagine. Mackenzie Doniak as well. Turnbow's back healthy. Korniak did not make the roster, the U.S. Women's National Team roster. A little surprising for me, but I know she was coming off an injury. So she should get some more playing time, and maybe, she can obviously improve more. And Yanez can see how she looks there as the starting keeper. And the Wave get to show off some of their depth. So I think I said the other day it could be like 7 matches or so that the Wave could be without Germa and Morgan if they go all the way. Maybe even more than that, because after the World Cup, if they go all the way, just for health reasons, they're probably going to need a little bit of a break. So could be till September maybe? Next time we see Germa and Morgan wear that Wave kit. So the Wave now, they are 6-5-2. And they are, I think there's 4 or 5 teams ahead of them in the standings right now. Yeah, Portland's on top. They were able to beat the Spirit. That was a good match. Sophia Smith went off. They're at 25 points. North Carolina's at 23. So is Ola Reign. So is Washington. Gotham, as of now, they're at 21. And the Wave, they're at 20 points. So, yeah, there are some teams in front. But those teams, we'll see how they do without their stars. All right, back to some comments here. Where was I? Lizzie says, what Padre fan thought we needed to sign a new shortstop in the offseason? Head scratcher. Yes, I understand that point, but look at how Tatis has done in the outfield. I think he's done pretty well. And the Padres, let's remember, they missed out on some first basemen. So the Padres, going all in, they just wanted to get the best offense that they could. So after Turner, after Judge, they said no. The Padres, they went after Bogarts to construct the best lineup. Maybe didn't need a shortstop, but just the best lineup. And that's what they did. And I liked the move at the time because, I had that thought from the front office's point of view. And Xander, he's done pretty well defensively at shortstop. He hasn't been bad. And obviously started good, but has underwhelmed. There's still time for him to turn that around. And there's still plenty of time for this contract to look good. I know it doesn't look great right now. So some to answer that, Lizzie, some were scratching their heads about that move. But at the same time, would you rather have had no Xander Bogaerts in the lineup, or would you rather have had Xander Bogaerts in the lineup along with these other stars? I think a lot of Padre fans would have said, yeah, I want Xander Bogaerts in the lineup if we can get him. And that's what the Padres did. Irie says Merrill is trade bait. I don't know. I don't know about that. Yeah, maybe Preller needs to save his job. So he's like, yeah, I'll trade Merrill. But at the same time, if he does keep his job, at some point, he's going to need to have some of these star prospects come up and have those low contracts, right? Those low salary contracts. Have them be able to come up and help this team. Because They're not going to keep this payroll at 270 or whatever it is. They're not going to keep that for the next decade consistently. Not going to happen. Ryan says Bogey is slow on his throw to first. Gives 3/4 of an effort on fielding balls. Average hitter. Would have rather added an ace pitcher. And yes, Lizzie is right. First baseman would have been better. But okay, here's the thing. What other first basemen were out there? Right? Like they didn't want to overpay for Josh Bell. That looks like a good decision. Okay, you could say Brandon Drury. That's fine. But long term, would you rather have Xander Bogaerts or would you rather have had Brandon Drury for a couple years? Do the Padres have someone that's going to come up and go be the first baseman in the farm system? Not that I know of. So, look, the Padres, they thought the best lineup possible, the best team here is to add Xander Bogaerts to it. Maybe they didn't want to pay Brandon Drury as much as he wanted per year. But also, I mean, then they went out and gave $280 to Bogaerts. I understand fans that are pissed off about the Bogaerts contract, but I would say, hey, there's still plenty of time for that to turn around. Don't make a judgment just based off of less than a full season so far of the Bogaerts contract. And the 3/4 an effort on fielding balls, I mean, I disagree with that. Bogaerts is one of the guys that cares. He's one of the guys that I think I can confidently say cares a lot about the team. And I know this is only his first year, but you look at the press conferences, some of the stuff that we read about him going back to the hotel room and looking at his swing repeatedly, like he could just cash in on the money and be like, I already won championships with Boston, whatever. He cares. He really does care. And would have rather had added an ace pitcher. Did they get Michael? He was not considered an ace pitcher. I get it. But look what they've gotten out of him. The rotation's not the problem here. It's not the problem. You know, at the beginning of the year, before the year, we were looking at the back end, right? There were question marks there. But the rotation's not the problem. The problem is the offense. All right, I think that's going to do it. Hit on a lot of topics here. Episode 418, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden signing off. Thank you all for the support. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll talk to you all later.